Stop scrolling right now, because what I'm about to tell you affects every single driver in Australia. And if you don't know about it before next week, you could lose your license, face a massive fine, or find yourself standing on the side of the road watching your car get towed away. And the worst part, you won't even see it coming. Australia's police forces are launching the biggest, most coordinated, most technologically advanced driver crackdown this country has ever witnessed. It starts next week. It covers every state, and it has been specifically designed to target behaviors that millions of Australian drivers engage in every single day. Behaviors that most people genuinely don't believe will ever catch up with them. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what's coming, exactly who is being targeted, exactly what the consequences are, and exactly what you need to do right now to make sure you're not one of the drivers who gets swept up in it. This is AU Driving Insider, and this is the video that could genuinely save your license. Don't go anywhere. To understand the full weight of what's about to happen on Australian roads, you need to understand the journey that led here. Because this crackdown didn't come out of nowhere. It is the result of years of frustration, years of data, and ultimately a decision made at the very highest levels of government that the way Australia has been managing road safety is simply no longer good enough. Cast your mind back over the last 3 years. Road fatality numbers in Australia, numbers that had been slowly improving for decades, started moving in the wrong direction. State after state began reporting increases. New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia. The trend was undeniable, and it was alarming. And when road safety researchers and police commissioners sat down to analyze what was driving the reversal, the answers were uncomfortable but clear. Distracted driving had exploded, not just from phones, though phones were a massive part of it, but from the growing complexity of the driving environment itself. Drug driving was rising sharply, particularly methamphetamine and cannabis. Fatigue-related incidents were increasing as more people pushed themselves through longer working days and longer commutes. And perhaps most frustratingly of all, speeding, the single most consistently dangerous behavior on Australian roads, had actually gotten worse in many regions during and after the pandemic years, as emptier roads led drivers to develop habits that they never fully abandoned when traffic returned to normal. The government looked at this picture and made a decision. Not another awareness campaign. Not another series of road safety advertisements. A genuine, teeth-baring, resource-intensive crackdown, one that would be felt by every driver on every road across the country. And it begins next week. Let's get specific, because the details of what's been put in place are extraordinary, and I think once you understand the scale of what's been built, you'll understand why I'm saying that this crackdown is unlike anything Australia has seen before. The technology investment that has gone into next week's operation has been years in the making. AI-powered camera systems have been installed across thousands of locations nationwide. These are not your traditional speed cameras. These systems use machine learning algorithms that have been trained on millions of hours of traffic footage to identify specific behaviors inside vehicles with remarkable accuracy. Mobile phone use, seatbelt violations, driver inattention, erratic lane positioning consistent with fatigue or impairment. These cameras see things that a human observer standing by the roadside simply could not detect reliably, and they operate continuously in all weather conditions 24 hours a day. The footage these cameras capture feeds directly into enforcement systems. Infringement notices are generated automatically. There is no human bottleneck slowing down the process. The camera sees the offense, the system generates the notice, and it arrives in your mailbox. You may not even know it happened until the letter lands on your doorstep. And the coverage of these systems has expanded dramatically. Metropolitan freeways, suburban arterials, regional highways, school zones, tunnel approaches, rest areas on long-distance routes. The idea that there are roads where cameras aren't watching is becoming less true with every passing month. And next week represents the point at which the network reaches a scale that makes meaningful evasion essentially impossible. Now I want to tell you about something that's been quietly put in place that most drivers have absolutely no idea about. And when I explain it, I think you'll understand why next week feels like such a significant moment. For the first time in Australian history, traffic enforcement data is being shared in real time across state and territory boundaries. Previously, each state operated its own enforcement ecosystem. A fine issued in Queensland didn't automatically show up when a police officer in South Australia ran your plates. A license suspension in Victoria wasn't instantly visible to an officer pulling you over in New South Wales. The system was fragmented, and experienced rule breakers knew how to exploit that fragmentation. That fragmentation is over. The national data integration that law enforcement agencies have been working toward for years becomes fully operational alongside next week's crackdown. Every police officer running your plates anywhere in Australia will now see your complete national driving history, outstanding fines from other states, suspensions, demerit point balances across jurisdictions, warrants, vehicle registration status, everything in one place in real time. For drivers who have been managing their behavior strategically, being careful in their home state while taking more risks when traveling interstate, this change is a complete game changer. The patchwork of enforcement blind spots they were navigating no longer exists. AU Driving Insider has been tracking this development for months, and I cannot overstate how significant this shift is for the practical reality of driving in Australia going forward. Let's talk about the specific enforcement operations that have been publicly confirmed for next week, because there are several running simultaneously, and each one has its own focus and its own set of consequences. The first operation is a comprehensive mobile phone enforcement blitz. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This isn't new. They've done phone blitzes before. And you're right. But what's different this time is the technology driving the detection. AI camera systems specifically calibrated to identify phone use inside vehicles will be the primary detection tool. These cameras can see through car windows at highway speeds. They can detect the physical posture associated with phone use, the downward head angle, the hand position, the eye direction, even when the phone itself isn't clearly visible. And they can do this for every single vehicle that passes, simultaneously, without fatigue, without distraction, without the human limitations that made previous enforcement inconsistent. The penalties for mobile phone offenses have also been increased in several states ahead of next week's operation. In New South Wales, you're looking at over $500 and 5 demerit points. For a provisional driver, 5 demerit points can be a license-ending event. For a full license holder who already has points on their record, it could push them over the threshold for suspension. And for repeat offenders, the consequences escalate significantly. Court appearances, extended suspensions, and in some cases, vehicle impoundment. Put the phone in the glove box. Enable Do Not Disturb while driving. This is not the week to test the system. Here's the part of next week's crackdown that I think deserves the most attention, and honestly, the part that I think has the potential to affect the largest number of people who genuinely believe they are doing nothing wrong. Drug driving enforcement is being scaled up to a level that Australia has never seen. Mobile drug testing units will be deployed across all states simultaneously. The locations are not limited to the usual suspects, the highways outside major cities, the routes near nightclubs and festivals. Testing is being conducted in suburban neighborhoods, near schools, at shopping centers, on commuter routes, essentially anywhere that vehicles travel. The testing technology itself has been upgraded. Newer generation saliva testing equipment is faster, more sensitive, and capable of detecting a broader range of substances. And the substances being tested for now extend beyond the traditional list of cannabis, methamphetamine, and MDMA to include a number of prescription medications that affect cognitive function. This last point is absolutely critical, and I want to make sure it lands clearly. If you are taking prescribed medication for anxiety, for sleep disorders, for chronic pain, for any condition that involves medication with a warning about operating machinery or affecting concentration, you need to speak to your doctor before driving next week. The law does not automatically exempt prescribed medications from drug driving enforcement in all circumstances. And discovering this at a roadside testing station is a situation that no one wants to be in. For cannabis specifically, and this affects a significant number of people who consider themselves responsible, occasional users, the detection window in saliva can extend for days after use. Someone who used cannabis on a Saturday night and feels completely normal and unimpaired driving to work on Wednesday morning can still return a positive roadside test. Under Australian law, that is an offense. Impairment is not the legal standard. Detectability is. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of Australian drug driving law, and it catches people completely off guard every single time enforcement intensifies. If you've been finding this information valuable, and I hope you have, can I ask you to do something right now? Subscribe to AU Driving Insider if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Because this channel exists for exactly this reason, to make sure that Australian drivers have access to accurate, detailed, up-to-date information about what's happening on our roads and in our laws. We do the research, we track the legislation, we talk to the experts, so you don't have to find out the hard way. Subscribe now and let's keep going. Speed enforcement. Let's go deep on this, because the changes to how speeding is detected and penalized in Australia are more significant than most people realize. Point-to-point speed camera corridors have been dramatically extended across the country's highway network. If you're not familiar with how these work, unlike a traditional fixed camera that measures your speed at a single point, point-to-point systems record your vehicle entering a corridor and then exiting it, and calculate your average speed across the entire distance in between. That distance can be 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, in some cases, even longer. You cannot beat this system by slowing down at camera locations. There are no camera locations to slow down at. The entire stretch is the camera. Your average matters, and if your average exceeds the speed limit, the fine is automatic and the process requires no human involvement whatsoever. New corridors are being activated next week on roads that have not previously had this technology. And the speed tolerance, the informal buffer that many drivers have relied on for years, has been tightened in these zones. The message from enforcement agencies is explicit. Drive at or below the posted limit, consistently, for the entire length of the corridor. This is not a suggestion. It is the enforceable standard. On top of point-to-point systems, unmarked police vehicles equipped with sophisticated speed detection technology are being deployed across the network in significantly higher numbers than usual. These vehicles look completely ordinary. They blend into everyday traffic. They can accurately record the speed of vehicles around them and ahead of them without any visible indication that enforcement is occurring. No marked car, no flashing lights, no warning. Just a fine that arrives in your mail a week later. For anyone who has developed a habit of driving 5, 8, or 10 kilometers over the limit as a matter of routine, next week is the moment that habit becomes genuinely, concretely dangerous to your hip pocket and your license. There is one more dimension of next week's crackdown that I want to make sure we cover, because it affects a group of drivers that often doesn't get enough attention in these conversations, and the consequences for this group can be particularly severe. Newly arrived migrants, international students, and temporary visa holders who are driving in Australia face a unique and often poorly understood set of challenges. The rules around when an international license is valid in Australia, when you're required to convert to an Australian license, and what conditions apply to that Australian license vary by state and visa type, and the complexity of the rules means that many people are unknowingly driving without valid authorization. Under next week's crackdown, ANPR systems are going to flag a significant number of vehicles. When those vehicles are intercepted and the driver presents a license, international or otherwise, officers will be checking validity carefully. A person driving on an international license beyond its legally permitted period of validity in Australia is, in the eyes of the law, an unlicensed driver. The penalties for unlicensed driving are severe: substantial fines, potential vehicle impoundment, and complications for future license applications. If you came to Australia from another country and you're not completely certain about the status of your driving authorization, find out today. Contact your state's roads authority. Ask directly. Get it confirmed in writing if possible. Do not assume that because you've been driving without issue for months or years that your situation is automatically fine. The crackdown beginning next week is going to surface exactly these kinds of issues, and finding out at a roadside stop is infinitely worse than finding out proactively right now. AU Driving Insider will be publishing specific guidance for international drivers in the coming weeks, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Let me be straight with you for a moment, because I think this matters. Every time there's a major enforcement crackdown, there are two kinds of reactions. The first reaction is frustration, the sense that this is just revenue raising, that the government is targeting ordinary people who aren't really doing anything dangerous, that the fines are disproportionate and the whole thing is about money rather than safety. I understand that reaction. I genuinely do. Nobody likes being watched. Nobody enjoys the feeling that every road they drive on is now a monitored environment where a mistake has immediate financial and legal consequences. But I want to offer the second reaction, because I think it's the one that reflects the full picture. The road toll numbers that prompted this crackdown represent real human lives. Every single fatality is a person who left home that day not knowing they weren't coming back. Every serious injury is a family whose life was changed forever by a few seconds of someone else's inattention or recklessness. And the behaviors being targeted by next week's operation, phone use, drug driving, excessive speed, driving unlicensed, are not random misfortunes. They are choices. Choices that have consequences that extend far beyond the person making them. The crackdown is not perfect. No enforcement operation is. But the intent behind it, to change behavior at scale, to make Australian roads genuinely safer for everyone on them, is one that I think most people, when they're being honest, actually support. So here is your action plan. Simple, practical, doable before next week. Check your vehicle registration right now. If it's expired or expiring soon, renew it before you drive again. Check your license status and demerit point balance through your state transport authority website. If you take prescription medication, call your doctor today and ask directly whether it could affect your driving or trigger a positive drug test. Set your phone to Do Not Disturb before you start your car and put it somewhere you cannot reach it while driving. On highway trips, use cruise control set at or below the speed limit. And if you're an international license holder, verify your status with your state roads authority today, not next week, today. These steps take minutes. The consequences of not taking them could last years. Thank you so much for watching this all the way to the end. It genuinely means everything to this channel and to the mission that AU Driving Insider is built around, keeping Australian drivers informed, prepared, and on the right side of the law. If this video helped you, please hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it makes a real difference to how many other drivers this information reaches before next week arrives. Share this video with someone you know who drives in Australia, a family member, a friend, a colleague. They need this information too. Drop a comment below and tell me, which part of this crackdown concerns you the most? Are you worried about the drug testing, the cameras, the national data integration? I read every comment, and I want to know what's on your mind. And if you are not yet subscribed to AU Driving Insider, please do it right now. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, turn on all notifications. Because this is what we do. We track every change in Australian driving law and enforcement so that you are never caught off guard. The road ahead is changing. Make sure you're ready for it. Drive smart, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.